Onana and Casemiro to Saudi. Two Manchester United players that Saudi do have interest in. And Manchester United could cash in 40 million for the two players. What is the latest on that? What is the latest on sales? Because how are INEOS planning to maybe allow Ruben Amorim to get a 200 million spending boost? And who could they be going on? We'll also talk about Jack Morehouse Academy players that could be involved tomorrow. Links to Jonathan David, more links to Cherky. I think Cherky and Jonathan David are two players a lot of people would like us to sign. Some interesting updates on them. Hojlund speaks on his form, and Manchester United looking at bringing in another signing like Seko Kone, like Diego Leon, like Chido Obi Martin, another young gem like an Aiden Heaven. So we're going to talk about all the Manchester United news and round up into 10 minutes. I do apologise that this video is coming out quite late. I was at the pub. That's the truth about it. Feel free to hit that like button if you do enjoy today's video, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. It really helps out the channel, and hope you enjoy the video. Casemiro and Andre Onana are expected to generate interest from the Saudi Pro League this summer and could raise 20 million each for Manchester United. 50 million rated Alejandro Garnacho is on Napoli's radar, and Chelsea are monitoring Kobbie Mainoo's situation. I think Garnacho is going to go to Napoli or somewhere this summer for about 50 million, raising to 60 million in add-ons. I have a feeling Garnacho is going to go. I do. I think PSR, the situation, the fact that he doesn't fully suit Amorim's system, I think even though there's a lot of potential there, and that's what worries United, that they're going to sell a player with a lot of potential for cheap that they might want to buy back in a few years if they brought in a manager after Amorim that played a 4-3-3. I think Garnacho could go. I have a feeling Garnacho could go. That doesn't mean he is going to go. That's not me saying he will go, but I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think Mainoo's going anywhere. I think his contract will be done, sorted, whatever, but I think Garnacho could. Now, Onana and Casemiro are two players that United are open to offloading. Obviously, Casemiro, 350k a week, United want him gone. He has 15 million left on his book value, and Man United are probably willing to sell him for anything above 15 million so they can get him off the book value. Onana, United will want 25 million because of his book value, and if you don't know what I mean by book value, it basically means we signed Onana for 50 million 2 years ago. We're paying that out across 4 years. So that's why we've still got 25 million left on the deal, for example. And if we sold them for 20 million in PSR, that's a minus 5 million loss, which means we can't actually use that money as pure profit to spend elsewhere. Does that make sense? I hope. So I think 25 million for Onana, 15 million for Casemiro, 40 million for the both. I think that's decent. Now, the problem is with selling Onana is you're going to have to replace him. Now, instead of replacing with Jan Sommer for 6 million, there's good goalkeepers out there for 15, 20 million if you look in the right place. But I think selling Onana is easier said on paper than doable, because it's how do we replace him, how do we split the funds. But we're going to talk about that in a second. But we could get 40 million for Onana and Casemiro, and you know what? Yes, please get them off the wage bill. I know Casemiro's looked better lately, refreshed them. It could be 50 million for Garnacho. There is rumours of Mainoo leaving, and what I do know is Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Malacia, and Casemiro are players that United are actively looking to offload, get off the wage bill. Hence the loans for 4 of those 5 players. Evans, Eriksson, Lindelof, and Heaton are gone off the wage bill. Bayendier wants more minutes, so he could go. Garnacho leaving is a strong possibility, and Onana leaving is a strong possibility, and Hojlund leaving is a strong possibility if, and I'm saying if, the right offer arrives for those players. Man United aren't prioritising selling them. There's other players they want to sell first, Sancho, Anthony, Malacia, Casemiro, but they're open to selling these players. The goal is to raise significant funds. I said this earlier. I said this before this news story came out. And Onana's book value is about 25 million. Hojlund's is about 37 million. So it's a bit more complicated to sell them. But this is what's been said by Malik of the Mirror. Manchester United believe they can have Ruben Amorim 200 million this summer by cashing in on players. Rashford 50 million. I'm going to be honest, we're going to get 40 million for Rashford. Sancho 30 million. We're going to get 25 million for Sancho. So that's 65 million. Anthony, he said 30 million. So that's 95 million. And Malacia is around 10 million, which is 105 million. You've also got potential of 50 million for Garnacho, which is 155 million. The players leaving the wages, maybe 15 million for Casemiro. Potentially a few sales could give Ruben Amorim 200 million. Now, I know that if you sell Rashford, Sancho, and Anthony for about 100 million for the 3 of them, Manchester United are very much in a position. I think you get 80 million. I'm going to be honest, you probably get 80 we probably get 90 million for the 3 of them, Rashford, Sancho, and Anthony. If we get 90 million for the 3 of them, we've got the funds to go and spend 120 million on 2 £60 million attackers. It's like what we do this summer massively depends on how we sell. And I know I've said that before, but that is the truth. What we can do in terms of spending depends on how we sell. And Manchester United believe that they can sell the people they want to sell, which, again, easier said than done. It's Manchester United, but they then would be able to spend big. I was also said that Mason Mount is a key player with the focus on Sin as a key player with the focus on keeping him fit. They do not plan to sell Mason Mount, despite rumours Maine is expected to stay and sign a new deal. Zirkzee is expected to remain despite interest abroad. There is interest in Ahmad, why wouldn't there be? But United consider him and Lenny Yoro untouchable this summer. Luke Shaw could be sold. United are open to selling him if offers arrive, but he's on high wages. He's not played like a game this season. Nobody's going to put an offer in for him. Being realistic. So again, unless it's a loan, so it's 95% Luke Shaw stays. That is sort of the situation with these players, with the outs. Let me know your thoughts down below. But let's dive into other stories. So I'm definitely going to touch upon this in my live stream tomorrow. I'll be live about 11 a.m. UK time tomorrow for the preview because there is rumours of Onana being dropped. So I'm going to see if more team news comes out. There's a lot of rumours about. But Sully Talks, who's been very good with his information in and around the academy, has said, exclusive, understand Jack Morehouse is set to travel with the first team squad tomorrow against Newcastle. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll be in the squad, but he could be in and involved. Cheeto's likely to be in the squad. He was dropped from the under-21s. Jack Morehouse likely to be in the squad, and Harry Amas likely to be in the squad are 3 players that are believed to be in the squad from the youth. That doesn't mean they'll start. That doesn't mean they're necessarily in the squad, but they're the 3 expected to travel. So, Manchester United, we spoke about them freeing up maybe £200 million. So, where are they going to spend that £200 million? Here's the first story. Now, Erkan Konar links us to a different player every day. So, I don't know what his reliability is when we're being linked to somebody new every day. But he says, Jonathan David is set to become a free agent this summer. United are among serious contenders to sign David. Now, we've been linked to Jonathan David a few times. What I think, based on people I've spoken to behind the scenes that are reliable, and what reliable journalists have said, is that Jonathan David is a one to watch. Let's see what happens with Delap and so. United like Jonathan David. They like the idea of bringing him on free, but there's other players they like more. But it's about the opportunity. Because it's not just signing on a free, it's the wages, the agent fees. It's more expensive than signing on a free. I think they're a bit tight with the money. Does he want Barcelona? Does he want Manchester United? It's one of those that United will be watching and they'll be looking at. And if Delap goes to Chelsea, there's a strong possibility we push for it. But if we get Delap, probably not. Or we can get Gyökeres, probably not. It's one of those, from what I've heard. It's a one to watch, but it's one where he definitely would be one to watch being a free agent, and I think it would be a really good addition. I did a video on Jonathan David, well, not specifically on him, but I spoke about him in detail, his runs, his finishing. I think he's a very, very underrated player, and I've watched him in the Champions League, and he's been great. It was also said by the Mirror Football, Manchester United are leading the chase for Ryan Cherki at the age of 16. Manchester United were well aware of his talent, and despite missing out, they have since monitored him and are now set to make a move this summer. 20 million. Now, 20 million for Cherki looks like great business. I know there's worries about work rate and physical limitation, but £20 million for Cherki, it sounds like good fee. It'd probably be a bit more with, what Leon want and this and that, but he's a fantastic player. I think you've got to take the risk. When we've got such a lack of quality in our attack, I think we definitely have to take the risk on someone like a Cherki. Imagine Cherki, Cunha, and Delap coming in. That improves the attack. Now, we will talk about Cunha again in tomorrow's live show. He's been tweeting loads of rubbish, and that's the big concern around Cunha. Is he a bit of a red flag? But again, I think a lot of people have been speaking about Cherki, and I think for the price and for the ability that he has, I would take the risk. I don't see it as a risk when I look at our front line, because I think he performed better than our front line, even if he's not living up to his potential. Continuing on, but he brings Cherki that sort of technical ability. So Rasmus Hojlund was sort of speaking about United. He was sort of asked about things, and he said this: I knew it was part of the package when I signed for United. It's part of being a Manchester United player. There's criticism if you don't perform, but like Christian Eriksen says, you just have to stay focused and find a way to perform. And this is why I say you can be a great player, but you can go to Manchester United and sometimes you can get swallowed up in it, because there's things you'll get criticised for at Man United that you wouldn't elsewhere. I've watched Tyler Dibbling for many games at Southampton, and there's a lot of games where he has what they call Garnacho games, where fans are getting on Garnacho's back for. But because only Southampton fans watch him every week, it's fine. The minute you're at Man United, you're in the spotlight. So Tyler Dibbling could have some amazing games at United, but he's going to have games where he's poor. And Garnacho's really under the spotlight because he's at Man United, and Tyler Dibbling gets a lot of hype because he's a great player. But if you watch Tyler Dibbling every game, he will have games where he's wasteful and he's not great and he's like Garnacho. But you're not under that spotlight. And I think with Hojlund, he's been particularly poor. And because he's under the spotlight, there's going to be more negativity around him, and you've got to have the mentality to get over it. And Hojlund has zero confidence right now, and it's really affecting his game. And he's got to try and break that. And that's why I think he probably needs a loan and a change of environment. Last but not least, this was reported by Simon Jones of the Mail, and this is maybe another Saka Kone type deal. He said, "We are interested in Ajax talent. I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but you can see it there. And the club scouts once watched him steal the show at the Under-17 Africa Cup. We know that obviously United, Vivo have got scouting networks very much over in Africa in those competitions. Hence the Saka Kone interest. I think even Dorgley's." And it was said that United are looking at more young players with higher potential as they look to build some infrastructure beneath the first team. And one they've looked at is Ryan One, who is a young striker that actually Ipswich are looking at as a potential Delap replacement. Now, what I've heard is that rather than bringing in experienced high wage players as replacements, Manchester United have Aiden Heaven to step in if Felicia gets injured, Diego Leon to step in if Dorgu gets injured. This guy could step in if a future striker gets injured. So they're lower wages players that could develop into great stars rather than having really experienced names. Now, I still think we need some experienced names who are starting. But I guess you don't want players that are on high wages that are in their 30s on the bench as bench players. You want them as starters and maybe opportunities for youth to play. So fair enough. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below on all the news. Thank you for watching. Bye.